After the short break we had, we were all eager to see the fastest cars on the planet racing again. And what better place than one of the best circuits in the world? But seeing the show we've had this whole weekend, honestly, I think even another week off wouldn't have been so bad. Between the rain, which Formula One fears, and other factors, the race was affected. We've had a complicated race. Let's leave them for now, but despite this, for us, the show must go on. And it's time to get to work on the recap of this new round of the Formula One World Championship. Remember, this weekend featured a sprint race before the main event. And we always have the tradition of giving a mini recap of what happened in this event. But can it really be summarized this time? In 20 seconds, Piastri had pole position at the start, Verstappen overtook him. Leclerc also passed Norris at the Lescombe corner. 1 lap later, Norris passed Leclerc, and the rest of the laps were about Piastri and Norris chasing Verstappen, never able to overtake him for 15 long laps. Meanwhile, literally nothing was happening behind. No overtakes or battles. Due to the sprint format, there was obviously no strategy involved. So the podium ended with a victory for Verstappen, Oscar Piastri in second, and Lando Norris in third place. For the main race, we were all hoping the show would be much more exciting, and in qualifying, this time Lando Norris would be on pole, beating his teammate, and also Charles Leclerc, who would end up being the runner-up in this race. But evidently, there would be surprises before the race began. This is because Fernando Alonso, Andrea, Kimi Antonelli, Lewis Hamilton, and Carlos Sainz must start from the pit lane. For making changes to the setup and some changing engine components, taking penalties, preparing for what could be a race with rain. Because yes, on Sunday the sky was completely cloudy and it had been raining all morning at Spa-Francorchamps, which could make for an interesting race, and by interesting, we knew this could be a flashback to 2021. And right when it was time for the race, it didn't start because of the heavy rain that was falling on the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Fortunately, they didn't mess around too much this time, and after an hour the sun finally came out in the Ardennes forest and allowed the race to take place. But inexplicably, they decided the race would start behind the safety car. Or, well, yes, there is an explanation, supposedly from the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, and that's the interpretation of this organization. The track was still wet in some very important spots, and on the main straight, one part of the start was dry and the other was wet. So, they considered that this could be harmful for some, and they thought the fairest thing would be to start behind the safety car. While it was disappointing to see the cars start behind the safety car, it was preferable to not having a race at all. The safety car went out on the track, the cars followed it, and by lap 4, the safety car would go into the pits. And it was finally time to begin the story of the Belgian Grand Prix. Obviously, Lando would be the first to go through turn 1, but with Piastri very close behind him. But Norris ends up going very wide at the Suez corner, and Piastri takes advantage of it to stick to his teammate's rear wing like glue. He comes out of the Orochi corner much better with extreme ease. He ends up overtaking him on the Kemmel straight, where it seems that Norris used more battery than he should have during the restart. His poor turn 1 exit left him vulnerable to Piastri's attack. And you could say that he practically lost the race here, although he had a chance to recover it later on. But things were going to be complicated for Lando Norris because when the track dried up, he would have to pit after his teammate did. He would have to complete the long lap of Spa-Francorchamps on intermediate tires, while Piastri on dry tires would start flying and gain significant time on him. Other than that, everything was pretty stable, at least at this start. We saw an overtake by Rossella Albon to move up to 5th, and Verstappen desperately trying to pass Leclerc to take 3rd place. However, the Monegasque's set top had less aerodynamic load compared to Max Verstappen's. Despite the Dutchman's strategic positioning in the corners and superior speed, he closed the gap. In fact, on several occasions he was even able to show him the car when picking up speed. Max didn't have a single chance against Charles Leclerc, so at least for now, the Monegasque could defend himself from his rival's attacks. Lewis Hamilton was animating the race in the early laps, being one of the few drivers able to overtake on track. On lap 8, he passed Carlos Sainz and Colapinto to advance to 15th place. And 1 lap later, he also got past Nico Hülkenberg and Pierre Gasly to move up to 13th position in just a few laps. At this particular point, everyone was waiting for the perfect moment when the track would be dry enough to switch to slick tires. And whoever got the timing right for the change would gain a lot of positions on track. Lewis Hamilton, Pierre Gasly, Nico Hülkenberg and Fernando Alonso were the first brave ones to make their stop. proving that it was the right strategy because they gained a huge amount of time on all the rivals who didn't stop on that lap, just in that out lap. So that when almost all the drivers came in on the following lap, Hamilton, Hülkenberg and Gasly gained many positions. Hamilton and Hülkenberg entered the top 10, while Gasly narrowly missed points in 11th place. Norris, Tsunoda, Hatt and Ariokon stayed out, losing significant time compared to their rivals. And Norris saw that he would basically come out a world apart from his teammate. He and his engineer opted to be the sole driver to change to hard tires for the rest of the race. And since everyone else was on the medium tire, if they tried to make it to the end with that tire, they would have to manage the tire a lot. And that could give Norris a chance to win this race if he didn't make any mistakes. Norris exited the pits 9 seconds behind his teammate following a slow pit stop. But the tire seemed to be working perfectly, and the pace was very similar to his teammates at this stage. From this point, the race stabilized ridiculously. Verstappen could never get close to Leclerc. Hülkenberg had to let Bortoleto pass, even though thanks to the pit stops, he was able to get ahead. But since the Brazilian had a better pace, they let him pass to see if he could catch up to Liam Lawson. And in a short window of time, he managed to pull out more than 2 seconds, and the only overtakes we were seeing were at the back of the field. Like Antonelli, having a disastrous race where he got stuck behind Ocon despite overtaking some drivers. Despite his efforts, he failed to overtake him, making numerous mistakes in the attempt. The race was completely flat. Some like Sainz, Colapinto, Alonso or Antonelli decided to go for a second pit stop, but honestly, this second stop didn't help them at all. Because they got stuck behind other drivers who were running at the same pace and couldn't overtake them. Nico Hülkenberg lost out significantly with the second pit stop as he pitted assuming his rivals would follow suit. And he got stuck in 13th position, giving away the last point of the race to Pierre Gasly, who was defending himself heroically against Gasly and Berman, taking advantage of the fact that his car was lighter than the rest of his rivals, and that was giving him a chance despite the power deficit. So the race was completely settled from practically the moment of the first pit stop. Lando Norris was the sole hope for witnessing something exciting, and that with those hard tires, he could close the gap to Piastri to fight for the win. He was essentially managing to do it. Despite closing the gap by 2.5 seconds, he made a mistake at the Pujon corner, losing all the gains. With a couple more lockups, he lost another few seconds, slowing his time reduction. For the last 5 laps, Norris was 4 seconds behind Oscar Piastri, so without those mistakes by that lap, he could have gotten into the fight and gone for the attack with the drag reduction system. Despite his losses, it was too late when Piastri caught up to him. He simply managed it without mistakes. Very important. And when lap 44 came, he managed to cross the finish line first. And with this, he won a race again this season, but now on the Spa-Francorchamps track. Oscar Piastri secures his 6th win this season, extending his lead over Lando Norris, taking advantage of all his mistakes to strike decisively this weekend. After everything that went wrong at Silverstone, which cost him points, he now comes back and pulls ahead once again against his only rival this season. The rest of the top 10 in the Belgian Grand Prix would finish as follows. Norris finishes 2nd after losing the race due to repeated errors. 3rd place for Charles Leclerc, in a solid result from him. 4th position for Max Verstappen. 5th place for George Russell, in a disastrous weekend for Mercedes. 6th place in a great race for Alex Albon. Lewis Hamilton finished 7th, staged a comeback, and won the Most Entertaining Driver award. Liam Lawson takes 8th, Gabriel Bortoleto finishes 9th in an impressive race. Closing out the top 10, Pierre Gasly secured the final point for his team. I'm not going to lie to you guys. This entire weekend has been very disappointing, at least for me, but it might be because I was ill all week. Honestly, I see no other way to view this Grand Prix. The sprint was disappointing, highlighting Formula One's fear of racing in the rain once again. Then it became the usual race where everyone waits for the crossover to dry tires before pitting, and then absolutely nothing else happens for the rest of the Grand Prix. I'm not sure if it's due to my illness or nostalgia for the old days of Formula One, but today has certainly been disappointing. And my rating can't be anything other than a 2. Boring race. Unfortunately, Formula One's fear of rain means that every time it rains, especially at the start of a race, we end up with such disappointing shows as this competition. Today's featured drivers are Pierre Gasly, Oscar Piastri and Gabriel Bortoleto. Gasly secures points with his tractor while Bortoleto endures a challenging race and weekend overall. And Piastri once again has known how to take advantage of his main rival's mistakes and run an almost perfect race to end up winning this Grand Prix. Andrea Kimi Antonelli is my disappointment of the day. Honestly, it's very disappointing for me to have to put him here, but objectivity comes first. His slump is very noticeable. He started the year very strong, but after Imola and the first updates he has completely lost his way and confidence in the car. The weekend was a disaster. If he's feeling the pressure now, I dread to think how he'll cope if this slump continues. I'm not going to take back my words. I believe Andrea Kimi Antonelli has great potential as a future driver, but Mercedes is paying the price for having promoted him to the main team so quickly. And now they have to help him get out of this no matter what. Or could Andrea Kimi Antonelli's star fade out long before it even has a chance to shine? With this, we conclude the summary of the 2025 Belgian Grand Prix in Formula 1. But I want to ask you, what were your thoughts on this Grand Prix? What rating would you give the race? And of course, let me know who your drivers of the day and disappointments of the day are for this Grand Prix at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Let me know all your opinions in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. Goodbye. Subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so you know when I'm uploading a new video, and share this with your friends. I also invite you to follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Links are in the video description. See you soon for the preview of the 2025 Formula 1 Hungarian Grand Prix. Thank you for tuning in and see you later.